Hey, it's Eric Byler for TYT Politics. We are at the White House where the Fairfax County Republican Committee has just held a rally in support of Donald Trump's decision to pull out of the Paris Climate Accord.
Climate change is a hoax. Okay, it's just made up.
I think the question is Paris Agreement good for the U.S. or not? And apparently it is not.
And apparently based on what?
Based on all of the reports that the administration has gone through to determine the issue.
Did they make them public? The reports, are they public? Can we see them?
I believe some of the reports are public.
So what do they say?
I haven't read them.
How do you know that we made the right decision then?
I'm based on the administration and their efforts to do what he said he was going to do.
Okay, 1, 2, 3.
When you first learned about the issue, did you do research to see if what the scientists are saying is true and if you should be concerned about the future?
No, I didn't do research, but I have watched and listened a lot. And of course our climate's going to change. That's just, it's going to happen.
A lot of the models that were used in the computer to establish climate change were found that they were faulty and not producing accurate data.
Climate change has been going on since the beginning of time because it's called winter, spring, summer, fall.
When we announced Pittsburgh, not Paris, we were getting calls and email from people in Pittsburgh who were upset because they said, we have a clean city and, you're going to undermine the clean air laws that helped us clean up our city. This has nothing to do with clean air laws. It has nothing to do with clean air laws. The only thing it has to do with, if it does have an effect, is the temperature.
A lot of people who advocate on the other side of this issue are concerned about their children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren because of the way that the climate might change and make it less hospitable to human life. Is that a concern you share?
Well, of course it's a concern, but we're talking about 2080. I mean, who will be alive at 2080? By that time...
Well, my great-great-grandchildren will be.
That's right. So, you have to just go along with what Trump is saying. I agree with him. I'm not an expert on this. He has. And he has all the advisor. He's looked into it. He doesn't do anything just out of the top of his head.
Some of the people I interviewed would say you're not a real Republican, you're a rhino because you acknowledge climate change.
Yeah, there are. I mean, both sides have their extremes though, right? I mean, I tell people all the time, I'm not your father's Republican. It's not that we don't think that there's a climate change problem. It's the fact that was just there was no other way to say it. That was a crappy deal. I mean, they set a goal that was kind of arbitrary, and the accord itself even said you can't really reach that goal. There was no set date for the goal. I mean, then you got outside sources saying that it was going to cost us in the realm of 1 million jobs.
There's clearly a lot of pressure on him not to pull out of the accord, and it's something that's very important to the Republican base. A, it's important that he keeps his promises. B, it's important to important segments of the base, like the small business community.
What is the relationship between the Paris Accord and small businesses in the United States?
Well, there's not a direct relationship, but if you talk to, I think it's an established fact that most small business owners in this country support the Republican Party. President Obama signed on to it for a reason, and as an executive order, it basically becomes policy for executive agencies. And if Hillary Clinton, for example, had been elected, it would have given the EPA and other agencies the ability to rely on the standards, the so-called standards set in the accord, to adopt new regulations. And that's where the burden comes in. GE can absorb, they've got the lawyers, they've got the scientists, there's a lot they can do to handle that stuff. And they're diversified. GE, for example, is building wind turbines. We talk about Shell. Someone asked me earlier, well, Shell was against the president's decision. Well, sure, they've got a green energy business, So that's the effect. There would have been a regulatory effect under a Democratic administration.
There's been so many coal mines that have been closed, but all these other countries have their coal. So why can't we just go ahead and do what we have to do, just like they're doing and using the coal?
You're going to do your best to give jobs to those that need them. Entire families, entire towns were wrought from Virginia, West Virginia, Pittsburgh, or Pennsylvania, all over because of the downfall of coal.
Do you think it's going to affect the coastlines, the climate, severe weather patterns?
I believe that there are a lot of interest groups out there that make a lot of money off of these issues, and keeping the emotions high ensures that they raise more money than they would have otherwise.
Do you think they make more money than the oil and fossil fuel industry?
Comparatively, in the industry that they are, profit-wise, sure they make more profit than the oil industry.
So like 350.org makes more than Exxon?
No, that's not a good question.
A lot of people look at the correlation between political donations from the fossil fuel industry and support for President Trump's decision. Does that give you any pause?
Well, I don't know the details of any donations, but Tom Steyer's got a lot of money. I'll just let it go at that.
So you think there's an equal influence, equal in terms of political donations?
I think that's fairly obvious.
What's the other one?
What do you mean? I just mentioned Tom Steyer. He made his money in the coal business, and I guess he's either got buyer's remorse or he's had some kind of religious conversion. I don't know, but now he's totally against fossil fuels.
When President Trump said that he thought that climate change was a hoax that was made up by the Chinese, was that one of the reasons why you chose him as your candidate?
No. I chose him as my candidate mainly because of the Supreme Court.
What is the thing that we can do now that benefits our country in exchange for the problems we're creating for future generations?
Well, let's put it this way. The wall, number one. We can put money into that.
The political contributions are part of the coalition. It helps Republicans win. And I'm wondering if the issues that Republicans run on, separate from oil industry, are more important to you than this particular issue.
Okay, so I get what you're saying, but you could counter that with saying, okay, well, isn't clean energy one of the fastest growing industries? And if so, don't they have a coalition as well? So maybe that there's a reason that that President Obama signed it.
When you say you voted for the sake of your children and grandchildren, it wasn't, of course, about anything to do with the climate. What was it?
Freedom. Freedom.